All right, so I think that looks like it's coming through again. Apologies, I'm not sure why the audio was randomly reset. I should have gone through and checked that. I think it was some firmware update that I had because I was having issues somewhere else and I didn't think to check OBS. But we're gonna rewind just a hair. Cool, thank you. Yeah, we'll rewind just a hair for our connection. So, Roland, you had gone and taken Boko to the side to attempt this ritual with him, and had kind of sat down and tried to connect to the area around, and found these distortions that you were seeing within what Professor Greystorm had called the various threads of the weave, and had essentially stored that knowledge to try and see if you could manipulate it in the future, but luckily the ritual went off without any issue. However, it did reveal this intense presence of disease across Boko's entire body, that was pushing up against that boundary that you know is present from where the protection had been given from the priests from St. Lopson. And he was just this surging, not necessarily bomb of disease, but a heavy presence, to be sure. And as you were, yeah, as you were kind of discussing this with him, he had pulled off the bandages upon his arm to reveal this mark upon his hand, this strange radial kind of brand that has these lines going off, almost like a compass rose, but they're more angular and jagged, these 8 different spokes from this central circle. And you had known or understood that this is a symbol related to some sort of religious sect known as the Blood of Vol, which you had come up before in some of your previous research, before hulking out into a werewolf.
Minor setback.
Yeah. And did you have anything that you were saying in this moment, or did you want me to continue on what you knew?
If I remember correctly, what I'd been looking for with that symbol was we'd run into like a Game of Thrones style body parts arranged in it in somewhere that we'd stopped by.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so you all had come across this strange, terrifying remnants of some sort of massacre, of bandits that were looking to ambush people like yourselves. And instead, their bodies were arranged in this circular pattern. And as you had been looking into rituals of this sort, you had come across the religion known as the Blood of Vol. The Blood of Vol is not known to be it's a very kind of back and forth perspectives on it, especially within Karnath, where it is the most prominent. And Karnath is the only human nation that has a significant portion of its populace that follows the Blood of Vol. And so there is an entire city kind of dedicated to its worship, and it's a predominantly human religion that doesn't worship any god or deity, but rather believes that there is divinity inside of each and every individual, and tries to access that, oftentimes through a figurative or literal connection to blood. And it's very...
There's divinity in everyone. Must get it out.
Yeah, and it's very... there's a lot of issues that people have with it because of its connection, specifically because of Karnath, its connection to necromancy and the undead. And there's a lot of renown that it was able to get from its assistance in the last war, some like 60 years ago. But that's started to kind of die off. And so people are getting more and more creeped out by these aspects of necromancy and these blood rituals which seem really evil, but there are advocates of the religion that will say it's just pricking your finger. It's just trying to be a symbolic access to that vitality that we all have and understanding and empowering the individuals. And so there's a lot of these both sides that are kind of almost in a social war with each other to legitimize this sect.
Okay. And then there's the other side that freaks out so much they go and make steam engines.
So the connection that the Shalt has is specifically with necromancy, but the Blood of Vol is a big part of necromancy. So it's not one-to-one, but it's adjacent.
Okay, we'll add to his list.
Yeah, steam adjacent.
Are you... I've seen this symbol before. Boko.
Boko nods.
You know what it's from? Are you a follower of that religion?
Boko looks quizzically at Roland. It is a religion.
I say religion out of delicacy if you follow it. It's more of a cult. Blood
That
of
does
Vol.
make more sense. Boko's gonna reach into his bag and he's gonna pull out a book. He's gonna hand it over to Roland.
I'll
The night
take the
you
book.
turned into a werewolf.
Oh, don't remind me.
This was what I was reading. I was hoping it could help me understand many things better, but perhaps it requires a deeper read. And Boko will hand the book over. It is called
This Destinies of the Soul.
Soul.
Yeah.
And it is bound in human flesh.
You took this from a library.
Roland, it is just you and I. You can drop the feigned disgust and this adherence to some sort of moral code.
But morals have nothing to do with it. Librarians are very serious about returning their books.
Well, given what you have told me only just recently, perhaps it is better if you carry it. You may have a greater chance at returning it someday.
I don't like that talk.
Roland, you cannot tell the others.
I watched you get kicked out of heaven. If you go to hell, I'll get you kicked out of there too.
It will be interesting. I have died many ways. Exploding in a cloud of rot is definitely a new one. And he'll try to offer Roland a smile.
Don't do that. It looks like you're going to crack the sides of your face and then...
If you find anything about this, and he'll show him the mark again, or anything else within that book, please let me know.
I will. Thank you. There's always a way out. We'll find it.
Boko looks at Roland. He says, I think you should go and eat. We are going to need all the strength we can muster.
Yes. Let's go.
Boko doesn't follow.
Who needs your strength too?
I just need a little more time to process this morning. That is all.
I'll bring you something light that doesn't require much chewing. You had a long day.
Boko nods.
Now I'll head back to the group and make a plate for me and make a plate for Boko and bring it out to him.
Roland, as you're heading back, kind of flipping through the pages, you come to the first one that kind of talks, it's kind of a preface that says, a book about the human soul deserves a human binding. And it's kind of addressed Mage Golagal, and kind of flipping through, it seems that it's different musings about life, about essence, about soul and body. Go ahead and roll me a quick history check as you're heading back.
Okay. Nice and average.
There's a few things that are kind of toying at your mind. There's something about this word vol that seems to trigger a memory, but you can't quite place it. But your mind is surged by this new name that you come across. Mage Golagal. You remember...
I write that one down in my notes to forget until the end fight.
You remember... back when you were traveling those are principalities, there was this conversation when all of the things that were happening with Sindri, and there was this, the captain had been talking and had made mention of some of the facts around her parentage, around how she ended up with Cade. And she had talked about this individual coming to her and asking for help. This adventurer, I guess, known as Lucius Morningstar. And he had been searching for someone connected to, gosh, it's difficult to remember, someone connected to something. And that individual was called something like the Faceless, and he was difficult to find because this faceless person was faceless and they didn't know who it was. But you remember this name, Mage Golagal. That was the person that apparently Lucius was convinced was this faceless person, and that a whole bunch of stuff ended up happening that resulted in Cade coming to Captain Azalea. You're not sure how it all fits, but there might be something here. you go and return to the others, where Professor Greystorm has laid out this extensive spread, at least as extensive as can be in the Mournlands, of different food laid out, and everyone is kind of engaging in conversation and talks as Greystorm and Renny are still kind of talking through this realization that Renny has that he is made of magic, and that he is battling and conflicting this interior fear of his that was given to him by his grandmother once upon a time, and by his clan, that he shouldn't be magic. And Greystorm is trying to convince him to face some of these fears, and as you kind of come back to this and get some of the food, you're kind of mustering over these thoughts and these feelings and these connections as you bring it back to Boko. It was Destinies of the Soul, is that right, Boko?
Destinies of the Soul.
Yeah. I didn't have it pulled up at that moment, but
Good.
yeah. And you know now that it's written by Mage Golagal.
The Faceless, an elf named Mage Golagal, who was the sea prince of the Golden Isle of Green Tar. BBEG energy. That's my last note on that name.
You know, at least you have a searchable document this time.
I had a searchable document last time too.
In this time, as everybody is kind of eating and sharing stories, the Shalt, Jasira, is there anything that you guys are doing?
I guess, actually, one question I did have, because you kind of asked about the Sovereign Host earlier. What is the primary religious affiliation of the members of Reckonmark?
So, Reckonmark is kind of indicative of Karrnath as a whole. Karrnath is split. So, when we look at the human nations, most common across all of the human nations is the Sovereign Host. It is like 90% at whole. After the last war, Thrain had shifted to this new religion around the Silver Flame. Throughout the last war and even before, there were some pockets of this religion called the Blood of Vol, and because they were able to amplify the undead in Karrnath, it got a hold in Karrnath over the last war. And so there's an entire city now dedicated to the Blood of Vol. So across Karrnath, it's roughly about 40% Sovereign Host and about 40% Blood of Vol when looking at the entire population. But it's heavily concentrated in the city of Aether for the Blood of Vol. And so for Reckonmark and for the Council, there's probably some members of the Blood of Vol, but they usually don't make it obvious. It's not something that a lot of people like to talk about because of how... gosh, the word just keeps escaping me today, but how many people have mixed feelings about it.
Kind of controversial.
Controversial, yeah, that's the word I couldn't think of. Yeah, exactly. So it's very controversial, and so a lot of people, even if they are followers of the Blood of Vol, wouldn't make it public.
So, okay, I was just trying to determine what because I would think that the show would probably, follow the religion at least, so just Sovereign Host sounds like it'd be a pretty standard one.
And most people, it's kind of like how a lot of people are today, where they might have gone to church, they kind of follow the Sovereign Host, but they're not active priests. They don't follow daily rituals.
Right.
They go to the temple on festivals and holidays, and they know of the sovereigns, but they're not going to work them into their common life.
Okay, yeah, and that's probably about where he would be. Where he's like, when we were talking about it earlier, I would be knowledgeable enough to be like, oh, I see what he's talking about, but not really be all fanatical about it. Just be like, oh, of course, we'll celebrate. Okay, cool. I was establishing that.
Yeah, it would be very familiar to
got.
anyone who lived in any kind of large city or had read anything about the sovereigns. Boldra's Feast is a very, very popular holiday celebrated all over because it kind of is that aspect of community that people are drawn to.
Okay, sweet. I was playing it like that, so good to know. I'd say it's consistent with what it should have been.
Yeah.
I think for Jasira, she really kind of contemplated, I guess, what Dr. Greystorm was talking about, because this idea is just very unique to her. She's like, oh, community feast, like that's really cool. And if she's decently perceptive, so following kind of conversation with him and Renny, but then also probably has some wandering eyes. Seeing that Boko's not around, she probably would just... Because I don't know how much she knows about his traumatic nightmares from last time. Probably zero. But, she knows enough to be like...
Yeah, he hasn't talked about the visions at all to anyone yet. But you definitely saw the effects that it had. And so he experienced something, you just don't know the details yet.
Yeah, so she'll probably just kind of do a wandering eye to just see if she can kind of gauge, even from afar, just how is he doing? How... From what he said, it sounds like he's wrestling pretty hard with it, but...
Give me an insight check.
That means advantage.
When you look over, you also notice that Boko is wearing his ritualistic garb.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah, and at first when you glanced over, or when you glance over now rather, it's difficult to get much of a read because he's putting this on, but because he's putting it on and the way that he's been acting before, you get more sense of his emotional state. And so with a 20, Austin, if you want to describe a little bit about what Jasira can glean of Boko's emotional state from distance and from perceptions across the last few hours.
Boko can explain it in terms that he would understand. So Jasira might have to put her own spin on how she would interpret it. But essentially what she would see is Boko is sort of resigned and moves very slowly. He hasn't drawn any circle. He hasn't done a ritual. He's just placing this garb on. And Boko, in a maybe unconscious way, has adopted this behavior that you would traditionally see among like pack animals, where when creatures grow old or weak, they tend to stray to the outside of the group before they die.
I think with that, Jasir will probably give him a little bit more space, kind of wait till the end of the meal. Maybe people are just kind of chit-chatting instead of just really focusing on their snacks, their noms. And then she'll probably approach him afterwards, I don't know, maybe with a few minutes before we kind of plan to head out. Approaching pretty cautiously.
Yeah, Jasir, you kind of head up in this moment as Roland is making his way back as well. Are you... Sorry, David, are you... So you made the roll, which is good. I forgot to ask for that. Are you just comparing them with your eyes and then also doing the roll?
Compare, contrast, like reading both of them, seeing if I can find any similarities in the language, because I know that the journal was talking about something akin to necromancy, and I just want to see if I can draw any connections. Like similarities in language or doctrine or anything like that.
Give me an investigation check at advantage here. And let me look up what that is for you.
Yeah, I was like, is it just me?
Yeah, he gone.
We lost our Austin.
Am I back?
We lost our Austin.
What?
There
We
he
want
is,
him
I
back.
think. At least the music's back.
Oh, the music.
Yeah.
Discord is weird lately. I don't know why it always needs to be on the front nowadays, but it does. It's a fickle bitch now.
Hey, no one likes
Discord,
being
He
put on
just
the back
wants
burner.
attention.
What a hoe.
It got real angry at me.
That's hilarious.
Oh, and stream crashed.
Yeah, I just restarted it. It decided that it didn't like being called names.
Oh, Discord.
Okay, so with 15, looking at the two texts and kind of flipping back and forth in these moments, and kind of allowing Jasira to catch up to you as well, you don't really notice any similarities in text or cadence. Like, these are clearly from not only two different people, but two different cultures. However,
Okay.
content,
Uh-oh.
there are a couple pieces that have similar themes. And you've only just now started to explore Destinies of the Soul, but you see a couple things that they're kind of talking about this not quite necromantic nature, but this nature of being, this essence of life and of the soul.
Yep.
That has some thematic similarities. And so spending more time on it, you might see if more of that intersects and if you're able to glean more of that. But for the most part, these books seem very dissociated from each other.
Okay. I will
Roland?
be spending more time between the two, and I'm also looking over my shoulder, kind of like horror movie style for the cat.
And
Roland is carrying 2 plates and 2 books at the same time. True fashion.
Got real good at juggling.
Roland, now at the start of today, after interacting with this tome, you can now cast the Chill Touch spell.
Ooh.
Spooky.
Spooky. Damn.
You'll love to see it.
And that has been added to that item for you. In case you ever roll a 6 again.
Awesome. Right.
Is it another D100 table?
It is.
It is.
Our DM loves 100 tables.
I do.
I can't wait until I roll a 100 on this and just get the ability to cast Wish once.
All right. But yeah, Jasira, you and Roland head back over to where Boko is sitting. Was there anything that you wanted to say to him, or are you just kind of watching for now?
She'll kind of keep a couple foot's distance, just kind of trying to be respectful of everything he's kind of wrestling with, or mentally preparing for, shall we say. And she'll just kind of say in like a soft voice, something's the matter. She'll just say it like very matter of fact and just kind of, I don't know, kind of like cock her head, just kind of trying to figure out what it is without prying further, because she, not as nosy as I would be personally.
Yeah, so for now, you're kind of watching this interaction, and you see Roland kind of quickly just looking back and forth between 2 books. He's clearly found a hint and is trying to chase it, but he's also brought some food over to Boko, and Boko is kind of like not even giving it much attention right now and seems to be almost in his own world. Boko, what are you doing here?
Boko is hoping that wearing this ritual regalia will, in probably a vain attempt, give him some kind of connection or insight. And it's more like he's constantly racking his memory and his mind to see if there are connections that he hadn't made before, now that he has new information. Because, I mean, to him, it seems like there are not just his current life, but two other lives, that of the Syrian child and of the medicine man. Those memories are far too vivid to not be real.
And so in this moment, are you trying to untangle those? Are you trying to enter a trance and see them again? What is Boko's goal to approach this conflict of nature he's having?
I don't think he's attempting to solve it as much as he is trying to see if any other memories or things that he couldn't explain can be explained by his connection to the medicine man.
Are you looking for someone to fix this, or are you just looking for someone to listen?
I don't think he's looking for. I think he's existing in this current space in which he's in and trying to find the boundaries of it and trying to see what his new normal is.
So just looking to listen.
Kind of.
Go ahead and roll me an insight check on yourself.
Yo.
Ooh, self-insight?
Never thought I'd be
What's
doing that
happening?
That's fitting.
I don't know.
Wait, I have inspiration.
one. Is this where you want to reroll it?
Hey,
Do
yo.
it.
God
Oh,
damn it!
Hey, if I take a screenshot of the 3D die on the screen, it is on a 20,
It is
or
pretty
at the
close.
very least cocked.
Oh my god.
Austin, I just want you to remember what you always say. The dice have a story to tell.
They always do.
And in this moment,
Yeah.
I think Boko is so conflicted and questioning what is real that he is completely unable to untangle things, and rather than it providing clarity, it shades everything of his past.
Sounds about right, actually.
Back at the table, we have Rhea and Bungo as well. Is there anything that the two of you are doing through this encounter, as Greystorm has been explaining magic to Renny, and some of the other party have kind of gone off a little ways?
Ray is casually interested in the magic discussion, also having known Renny was doing magic the whole time. His reaction as well.
Yeah,
But
Bungo
never being
is,
a magic one is kind of cool to hear how it's working.
Bungo is less listening to the magic conversation because he knows all that stuff, learned all that before, and he's more just kind of in shock, like, how did he not know? And he's thinking back to all the times that Remy has very clearly done magic.
He's just Bungo's bamboozled.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Bungo,
He's just like whispering, like, and then the bees?
as you're thinking back to all of these crazy things that Renny did, can you tell me about the moment where Bungo first realized that he was magic? That might go through his head in this moment as he's comparing his own experiences to that of Renny.
Ooh, I think Bungo was being bullied because of his very much baby face. Just like as a kid, or as a teenager, I guess, being bullied for the way he looked and the way he acted. He was still kind of dumb. And then a rock just like flew at whoever was making fun of him. And then he learned how to do that on purpose.
I love it. And Bungo, you also notice as Professor Greystorm was talking to Renny about magic and about the weave, he was surprisingly complimentary of you in as he's talking about this comparison. And you've always felt that Greystorm was this distant and demanding professor, but especially with your recent actions in the tomb to reveal the stone, he's seen more of your ability as of late, and it seems to be impacting how he's responding to you.
Yeah, I mean, Bungo is all for that, but he's trying not to let it get to his head, even though it very much is. He is definitely on a little bit of a high right now.
All right. As you all are kind of eating this food and finishing up this communion, you all do gain the benefits of Hero's Feast, whoever guessed it. And so you have over the next 24 hours, you are cured of all diseases and poison. You become immune to poison and being frightened, and you make all wisdom saving throws with advantage. And we'll go ahead and roll these 2d10.
So at this moment, I am very, very glad that I made a plate for Boko and brought it to him and forced him to eat it.
Unfortunately, I believe this disease has plot armor.
Does this apply to
I'm sorry,
health or
the spell
stamina?
says all. It does not say all asterisk except plot armor.
Would you like to recast Detect Poison and Disease to find out?
I'm going to roll a natural 1 on that. With, create
I'm going
poison
to
and disease.
immediately be reinfected.
Apply poison.
But
I'm cured!
yes, I would like to see if it works.
Worth a
I'll
shot.
do it ritualistically again and try and find the same path I did before.
Okay. Roll 2d20s for me this time.
Austin,
Cool.
out of curiosity, does that apply to HP or SP? Because I don't know if you pulled this like it's a vanilla spell, but
Yes, this is the vanilla spell, so it's 9 increases to your SP.
to stamina.
Tell me
Okay,
the
cool.
2d20s meant advantage.
It did indeed.
thank
As you're
goodness.
lucky. As you're sitting down to do this ritual, and as soon as you start, you feel that connection different, where there is this intense threat around you, and you're not sure what is different, but you've connected to the space around you, the weave, in a place that is more shattered than before, and you immediately try to access those bits of the weave. Go ahead and give me an Arcana check here.
Alrighty.
Oh no, my boy!
Nice.
Ooh!
Okay. So the 2d20s was to see what you were maneuvering through. It wasn't necessarily advantage, and the Arcana check was how capable you are at maneuvering through those two outcomes. And so you find
Hell
yourself
yeah.
in this shattered area and just surging through. You're not sure if it was the professors talking or if it was what you've seen Bungo do, but somehow you're able to connect to magic in a way that you never have. And you're able to almost, maybe it was that magical item of that detect life, and suddenly for this moment you feel like you can almost see the threads around you, and you twist the spell and adjust those threads and connect up the dislocated pieces, kind of surging a bridge between those places where the spell would break out into different dissecting magics, and pull this ritual into existence from something that would have just frayed apart. And as you complete this casting, breathing out heavily, kind of condensed with this just thick band of sweat, you feel blind in this moment. As you're looking at Boko but don't see him. And as that realization clicks, you feel this wave of relief as that heavy, pulsating emanation of disease is gone.
For 24 hours. He's gonna kind of do a double take, and then start inching closer, and almost like the poking and prodding and making sure that he's actually there, and you can very plainly see the wonder on his face at whatever it is that he's seeing.
Boko, you look over at Roland in this state. After just casting this spell that you know, it's not too difficult to put together what he's seen, but you don't quite find it in yourself to believe it until he says it out loud. And even still, there is a concern around you, this thing that has been, if not infectious, has been with you for such a long time. And you don't feel any different.
I'm going to grab his hand and look for the brand.
As you look down, the brand is still present. But what before had been laced, you hadn't realized that it was black underneath. You had just thought it was discoloration from the brand, but now the lighter tones of Boko's brown skin shows through. And there had been something beneath it that had been present that is now gone.
Could I ask Roland for an insight check?
Sure.
On you?
On me.
Okay.
Go on, roll 20. That's
Ben,
good.
whatever you do, don't roll tonight.
So
I gotcha.
I think Roland might be shocked at what he sees. As he looks at Boko, it's very akin. Boko's face hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten a little bit deeper. It's like somebody on the Titanic pushing their way to the lifeboats and seeing that the last one is gone. The easy way out has been extinguished.
Oh.
And slowly, Boko will sort of pull his hand out of Roland's grasp and begin to bandage it back up.
I told you I'd get you kicked out.
Roland, I had no reason to doubt you. Unfortunately, it is here that is what I fear the most. The statement I made earlier still stands. We do not have much time. Perhaps we should get ready to leave.
And as you look around, indeed, the others have finished packing up the meal that had been set forth. Greystorm has his tent and everything back on his floating disc, hovering behind him. And it seems everyone is nearing the time to set out. Is there any last minute things anyone else would like to do here in camp before returning to the nightmarish landscape of the Mournland again?
Back to the Mournlands. Let's go.
Oh God.
We're off to see the Mournlands. The horrible Mournlands of Sire.
All right. So as you all set out then, who would like to be assisting Professor Greystorm in navigating along the rails further south and ensuring that everyone is guided towards safer passages?
You know
Bungo
what?
would absolutely like to do it.
Go for
Oh,
it.
good. Cool.
Always the student.
We're Ben.
I mean,
You
Jaciro's
got
like,
a compliment
could,
from Greystorm.
I just earned all the luck for both of us.
Bungo, how are
Do
you
it.
assisting in
Oh,
guiding
no.
the party today?
Successfully.
Well,
Don't panic.
he is going to try to use what he knows, what he learned about how the mist doesn't interact with the mystical threads, and trying to use that to more follow the threads and kind of get a feel for that instead of focusing so much on the mist and the physical side of it, trying to focus on the magic and letting the magic guide them.
Are you proficient in Arcana?
I believe I am.
Okay, go ahead and make me an Arcana check at advantage.
Wonderful.
Five
Solid.
points
Perfectly
plus two.
balanced. Ooh, okay.
As all
Heyo.
things should be.
Bungo, as you are reaching surging energy into the stone, you almost feel led. And it's not so much as this guiding hand pushing you around or this voice speaking to you, but you can sense where there are presence. You can feel the distant echoes of creatures reaching you, and you kind of navigate through and pause and rest and select different routes to avoid the various shadowy creatures of the Mournland throughout this day. And you travel for some time without really any interactions of creatures outside of the small shadowy cat that has now gotten close enough to be playing around Roland's boots every once in a while. But you make it
I have a
through.
cursed cat.
You make it through with relatively safe passage throughout the day. And as the mist-like dome starts to darken, you know that the sun is beginning to set. You suddenly see a large area of bright sunlight over the next hill, and you've never seen actual sunlight in the Mournlands. It's always been artificial magical light, but it is very distinct, and you all kind of quicken your pace and move up above the next hill. And looking down, you see this valley, this place that looks so foreign to what you've come to expect. And in this area of thin mist, there is a beam, but not a shallow thin beam, a thick breaking of the mist where thick rays of sunlight shine through onto a unblemished town below.
What?
You see nestled within this valley for lack of a better term, a normal town. And even from this distance, you can see shapes moving between buildings, walking between places.
Huh.
It looks like the rail runs somewhat parallel to this village, where it's not all the way through like the last one, but it's close enough where you'd have to probably approach with some stealth if you wanted to get by without interacting.
I'm just gonna look to Clyde and just ask both him and Boko, just, do people live out here?
I'm sorry, but you said that not interacting was an option. Why would you even offer that as an option? We're going to go interact.
I figured I'd just cover my bases. But yeah, Clyde looks at you and it's just like, I ain't never seen none of that shit.
It's like the missions where they give you a machine gun and say stealth is optional.
Yep, exactly.
That's a good one.
Heard. Click, click.
Well, I guess hearing that, just look down. Okay, then how do you explain this?
Clyde speaks up again. Just, I don't know if I should be happy to see that or if that should creep me out.
I don't think explanation is a resource that is abundant in the Mournlands.
I suppose that's fair. Well, what are the odds that it could be either a trap or something a lot like that? What was it, the train vision or whatnot that we ended up seeing earlier?
I mean, there is only one way to find out.
And at this point,
I
Greystorm...
was really hoping there wasn't.
At this point, Greystorm kind of speaks up as well. He's like, I know it is an exercise in futility to try and push us without interacting, but can we please make this quick?
I don't think any of us are going to be particularly opposed to that.
As you all begin to...
Rails.
Are any of you guys taking any preparations as you continue down the rail getting closer to this town?
I'll pull my shield out in case it turns bloody, but I feel like the DM went, hey, this has been really emotionally intense. You know what this could use? A shopping episode.
I love a shopping episode. Let's go.
Austin, do you know who I am?
Shop for your lives, idiots.
You have provided us with shopping episodes in the past.
This is
Clyde
true.
goes, I hope they have one of those roulette things.
There's just a kobold or go home in the middle of the moorland.
Exactly.
I would honestly, as a player, not be surprised.
That would be so on brand for Klimek. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, honestly, from a market perspective, he's uncontested out here. This is incredible markets here.
Honestly,
Why haul all your artifacts back through the mist? You can just stay here and sell them to me.
It has to be the same staff every single time. Zero explanation.
I mean, it basically is already. You know what? It's canon now. There's a little purple tent that you see.
Let's go!
Yes, we're going.
Oh. Of course. You know what? That makes total sense. So why not?
We're going shopping, guys.
It's not really preparation, but I think Jasira's just gonna kind of go into one of her pockets and kind of just like hold the little shiny locket she found, kind of seeing this as like a good omen of sorts. And so she's just gonna kind of hold it, give it like a little like thumb rub.
I'm going to scout ahead.
Give me a perception check. And I'll say an advantage since you've got your scope.
Okay, thank you.
I feel feel like we have to tell Adam so he can retroactively decide how much gold he's blowing on that.
True. Hey, you went shopping. How much money you want to spend?
Roland, it's difficult to exactly gauge what's going on here. But you and it's kind of because you're so distracted by how normal, regular it looks. Like you see humans walking from building to building without a care in the world. You see children. You see there's not a dense population here, but it is moving about its life. And you all continue to come down this hill, approaching closer and closer and getting a better sight of these buildings. And these buildings aren't worn down. They're not broken. It's a town.
Looks perfectly normal to me, which should probably freak me out.
Does anybody seem to take notice of us? Just like the Sixth Sense?
Not yet that you've seen. Boko, why don't you give me a perception check as well, as you guys have gotten closer now?
I perceive. Oh.
Oh, yes, you do.
Yeah. You're moving down, and there is really no reaction from any of the people, but you're not hidden. You're not trying to stealth. Like, they had to have seen you, and you know that you're always on alert here, and any shadow that moves, you're cautious of it. And so these people to be completely ignoring you, or just the most oblivious people in the world, it doesn't make sense. But you see this sunlight, these beams that are shining through the misty dome that is there. There is a very clear border between where the light mist of the Mournland hits these sun rays that surround this town.
How close is that border?
At this point, maybe 100, 200 feet from you guys, as you guys are continuing to walk closer.
Well. Now I'm nervous. I think when we reach the threshold of the barrier, Boko's gonna see if he can identify what the hell it is.
Roll me an Arcana check. Yeah, you kind of get up to the barrier, and the dead mists above are pierced, and this valley is freed of the Mournland's eternal twilight. It's bathed in light of the sun. It seems like normal sunlight, but you also know that from the general light around, the sun should be setting right now, and it seems bright and open in the sky above. You can't see the sun itself, but you see the emanation of the daylight through. And here, there are fields and houses. It's an idyllic little farming village that is unsullied and still in use. The villagers alive and healthy and moving around, but still none of them have come up to interact with you.
Does anybody look like they want to go in?
Everyone kind of mirrors your face, where you're so unsteady about whether you should be excited about this or terrified.
Is it like completely off the path, or is it adjacent? Like, can we take the business loop through the town and then rejoin with the highway on the other side?
So the rail is like a mile parallel to the town. You guys have departed from the rail to come down to the town. You can walk around the perimeter if you want. If you want to get a different view, you can maneuver any way you want. But there is a very clear border where that light bisects the mist. And you guys are kind of like right up, like 10 feet from it at this point.
We gotta touch it.
Boko does not want to touch it.
Roland, you reach out.
Wow.
Pause in this moment as Boko hasn't already done it.
We found something that Boko doesn't want to touch.
There's a very explicit reason that Boko is very hesitant to go into this place.
That he hasn't talked about yet.
Apparently don't mix very well.
And I'll say, Jasira, since you've been paying attention to Boko, there is a very clear hesitation of a individual that is normally the first one in, last one out. And you know something is very wrong. You don't know if it's the light, you don't know if it's the border, you don't know if it's what's going on with the village, but Boko is usually the first one to touch the thing, and right now he's at the very back of the group.
Yep. Her brow is furrowed all the heck. She's like actually kind of excited about this. You know, we've been in this mist for who knows how long at this point.
I'm gonna touch the thing.
Roland,
Jasira's just kind of like side-eyeing Boko while you touch the thing.
You put out your hand, and do you have gloves on?
Good question. I don't think so.
You put out your hand and you feel the warmth of the sunlight as you break the border. And it's that calm, warming feeling of laying in the grass as that afternoon sun hits your skin. It's this remarkably peaceful feeling. And you kind of can't help but press forward even more. And as you kind of step through, you feel this chill that you didn't even realize had been present in the moorland just kind of waft off your shoulders. But other than the pleasant rays of sunshine, you don't feel changed.
Yeah, I'll step all the way in and...
As you kind of step in, a few others, Professor Greystorm kind of tests it and steps through, kind of looks and seems unaffected. You do see now, as some of the villagers have noticed you and at least registered enough that kind of word is getting around. They don't seem to be doing too much indifferent, but they've acknowledged your presence. Are you guys going further into this town? Are you sinking back out into the mist? What do you want to do?
I want to explore.
I don't want to break the barrier.
I want
Which
Boko
is
to break the barrier.
perplexing. So Jasira is right frickin' there. Is like an inch from touching the barrier and is kind of just like Boko. What is wrong?
You're saying that out loud?
This whole place scares
Not
Renny
like that,
enough.
but yes, she will approach him pretty with a purpose.
Okay.
You know, just kind of like on that mission.
We'll get to that in 1 second. Renny, what was that you were saying?
Yeah.
So this whole place scares me enough that, like, the fact that something's sunny and pleasant doesn't obviously scare me anymore. So I'm for, like, going and seeing the nice happy thing that's like, that's scary, this is scary, might as well at least be sunny and scary.
Yeah, and Renny, as you step through, like, it's nice. Like, it's not scary at all. It's, like, beautiful.
Yeah, I'm vibing. I'm good with some sunshine.
Wait.
Sunshine
I have
and snacks, all it takes.
I have a test.
But Jasira, as you go up to Boko, you kind of approach him being a, dude, what's going on vibe to you. What are you saying?
Mm-hmm. You touch everything. You won't even go near this. What is going on? What were you talking about with Roland? What is happening? Tell me.
Boko, actually, yeah, Boko will look at Jasira and he'll say,
You were there with me. You buried the seed from the tree of life in the village, outside of Carlacton. You saw the bones of the people who used to inhabit that place. I do not wish to see that happen again.
Based on what Roland said before we left, it seems like it was fine. Is it not fine?
Boko doesn't answer that question. He says,
You've seen what happens. When I arrived in Carlacton, many people died. This is something that should stay confined.
I'm going to test out with that insight I have into how the weave is fractured in the Mournlands. I'm going to cast Dancing Lights and see if there is any fracturing in this area or if this area is whole.
Give me an Arcana check.
Oh, that's a 5.
This area seems completely whole, and mechanically, upon casting this spell, you don't need to roll a d20.
Ooh.
Separate. It's
That's why your
separated from
spells
the
here.
Mournland. Do what?
What did you say, Austin?
cast all your spells here if you need them.
Yeah, right. Any long-term buffs that we want to apply real quick? This place is... it's separate. It's unaffected.
And despite the clear visual barrier, you all can hear Roland just fine. There doesn't seem to be any physical barrier.
I'm through. It's
I mean, I'll go
good.
through.
It's clean.
At this point, most everyone has passed through, but Jasira, you still see
Oh, perfect.
Boko being hesitant here. Is there anything else that you had wanted to say to him? And you do know that Boko has been experiencing some sort of... You don't know exactly what they are, but you know that he had this like 1,000-yard stare where he must have been seeing something as he was getting this horrifying effect.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't know what he saw.
Oh, good. The ritual garb. Very nice.
Boko hasn't taken it off either.
Mm-hmm.
Boko.
Mm.
I saw for myself, there's no disease. Step in. Step out of the depression out there. Come see a world free of disease.
Boko looks at Roland and he says, I will meet you back at the train tracks.
Boko.
You shouldn't be alone right now.
I have no business rolling anything even remotely democracy related, but I want to.
You can try.
You need to let go of the past if you want a future. Take it from someone who is an expert in not letting go.
Roland,
that
I
too.
have known you for long enough. I know that when you have a problem, you devote time and effort into dismantling it, whether that be reading or studying. That is what I need at the moment. Unfortunately, I do not have books or materials that can give me the answers that I need. Only communion.
He's going to pull out the destinies of the soul. This book
I think.
speaks
I
of
think- Go ahead.
magic akin to what I've seen you do. And he's going to pull out the journal of the witch. This book bears similarities, and in it, the author speaks of a pursuit of that communion, a pursuit of that magic, a pursuit of those abilities that is in the end futile. And in the end, she says that she is comfortable with the end, comfortable with leaving the past in the past, and moving forward to what comes next. I understand your need, I understand your abilities, I have witnessed them firsthand, and I believe that they may be holding you back. You are tied to your past by this communion. I trusted you, I took a step with you into your world. For the first time in my life, I am not doing something I read in a book. I am doing something that feels right. So please, take a step with me into this world. And trust me.
It's poetic. Roland looking at Boko and asking him to do this For the first time, the shoe's on the other foot. Every single time, Boko has told Roland to let go of his fear. Boko cannot do it. He cannot. He clings too tightly to this. Boko will say to Roland,
Roland, your words are true. You have seen what I am capable of. Unfortunately, it is only recently that I have discovered that I may be capable of more than I had ever imagined.
We all are.
It is a jarring sensation. I must spend time with these feelings.
Yes. But on this holy day for the sovereign host, let me apply one last plea as a priest. Spend that time with those feelings in the light and step out of the dark.
Balls.
Boko is going to reach up and he's going to pull the mask off. And he's going to say,
Roland, if this turns out terribly, it is going to take a long time for me to forgive you.
Boko will join his friends on the other side of the veil.
But I have faith. For the first time in a long time.
You all watch this slow and careful step of Boko as he tests the light and steps across. Unsurprisingly to most of you, the world doesn't explode. However, for Boko,
No incident.
there is a heavy burden that you suddenly are conscious that is present and that you are carrying. And in this moment of taking this step, it is the first bit of it that you're able to let slide. And you all begin to pass into this town, in this sunlit valley. And for the most part, the world is going on around you. People are giving you a bit of a berth. They're not coming up to interact with you, but they also don't seem to be going too far out of their way to avoid you. You all are acknowledged and kept at a distance, but don't seem to be hostile and are not treated with hostility by them. What are you all doing as you see this town around you?
I'm gonna look and see, like, I guess these things were going around, like, is there kind of normal interactions, or does it seem off?
Give me an insight
Like
check.
if a normal market square?
Yeah. Deshalt, you look across and it seems perfectly normal. Everyone is moving about. You see a few children that have kind of been moved into what looks like a school building. There are people moving from general stores to homes, people tilling fields. There's not a lot of people here. Again, it's not like a densely packed city, but it's a big place. There's a few people wandering from building to building as you maneuver through. You kind of see that purple tent off to one side, but other than that, everything seems pretty relatively consistent of building, and even the architecture, you can see it is Siren architecture, like original Siren architecture. And the people here, they've got that almost that specific descent of Siren, so having for what we would know now as either Asian or Arabic features. But these individuals are Siren.
So not even not necessarily a camp of outsiders that had to take refuge, but natives? Possibly?
So Roland gets a wild look in his eye. As every step in this town has reinforced the fact that this was something that was set apart from the destruction of the Mournlands. Which means, if there's a library here,
Yeah.
the books are from before the mist.
Oh.
Also, do these people look familiar at all, DM?
Roll me an investigation check. Looking around these faces, none of them jump out to you as someone that you know by name or by face. There's none that were connected to any of the visions that you've had or to any of the feelings and emotions or memories that you can remember. However, the way that they're moving about, the architecture, the look of them, it's most similar to those glimpses of that first village that was on fire. The people that lived there, they're the same culture as the people that live here. And from that, you get this feeling of somber, almost sadness from these individuals and just the way that they're moving about their lives.
Austin,
cool.
just a general lore question.
Mhm.
How long have the mists been a thing?
About 60 years. They happened at about it was 98 years into the last war. And when they happened, it basically brought about the treaty that ended this last war across the human nations and kind of finalized the geopolitical scene that is currently in place. And that treaty happened about 60 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And everyone outside of maybe just Syrah, like, knows and is familiar with the Day of Mourning, and it is a annual holiday of remembrance, typically like similar to what we do for 9/11, where everyone is like, where were you on this day? And like still grandparents will talk about it that way. Like, it is observed every year with reverence, and it was where an entire country just disappeared. The people all died, and it created this hellscape. And so everyone knows about it. It is the #1 history event. It's probably more almost like Hiroshima type thing in comparison to a modern day. But it is a well-known event.
The Infinity War snap.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like Roland was saying, to see these people here that are clearly before that, and separated from everything around, it is strange. It is perhaps an opportunity, but it's very disassociating to basically walk into somewhere of the past where the clothes are different, the actions are different, the architecture is different. It feels normal in a way where it's different than the mist, but it feels so alien in that you're walking back into like the 1940s, like that culture shock level.
Oh, so the music is good again?
There is no music here. At least none playing.
Interesting. Anyone know a good bard that knows this area?
Clyde.
Yeah, let's see if Clyde. No, Clyde is. This is one of the few places Clyde hasn't been to in his travels.
Bummer.
I now really need a duet scene with Clyde and Lucius.
So
This
true,
town.
actually.
Clyde has mentioned that he knows Ragno.
Huh.
Also true.
Aww. Marino.
But yeah, you guys are
It
just
doesn't surprise me that Clyde knows Ragnar.
right now. You guys are just walking through the streets here, and despite the culture shock and like outside of that, everything seems to be moving around as a normal town day would. I know Roland mentioned interest in a library. Was there anything else that people were interested here?
That, and I'd like to take a look as we're walking around if I can get a glimpse of currency exchanging hands, if the currency is different.
Is inflation a thing? We might be filthy fucking rich here.
Yeah.
Give me an insight check, Roland.
Can you imagine stepping back into the 1940s with your current bank account?
I mean, I have hella student loans, so my bank account's in the negative.
F. No.
F it,
Yeah,
that.
but who's going to be able to collect on them in the 40s?
Roland, you
Heyo.
look into these like general stores, and you watch people trading, bartering. There is no currency that passes.
Okay.
Do there
Barter
appear to
system.
be any smithies or like areas that are dedicated to like construction or crafting or anything?
Ooh. If we could get our hands on some original siren craftsmanship.
Give me an investigation check, Boko.
That's a good point. Ooh.
Oof, not as good as the last one.
Looking around, you don't see many buildings dedicated to that. It's a big town. You guys are kind of on the main strip. You come by, you do see one smith, a blacksmith. And it almost looks abandoned, but there is like some small light kind of off to the side and kind of like a back shed area. It doesn't seem like the shop itself is open, but it seems that there is somebody there. But that's the only one that you kind of catch sight of. Renny, looking around, there aren't any street vendors, actually. It's strange in like a main thoroughfare like this that typically there would be some sort of vendors lined up along the streets, but there are none. There's a few places where food seems to be given out, where you see some farmers kind of bringing things into like a storehouse, and you see people coming in and leaving with bits of meat, bits of vegetables, basic kind of farming rations. But there are no vendors of really many kinds that you can see. And you see some shops for it. There's an old kind of dressmaker shop, but it's kind of been repurposed. And it now kind of stores what looks like just racks of different kinds of clothes. And it seems like there's somebody in there, but there's not like business passing through. and they seem to be occupied with something else. They're kind of working on something. They're not really minding the store as you kind of glance through these windowed areas.
Do there appear to be weapons or things on sale at the smithy? Not, I mean, for trade.
Are you kind of looking into the window of the building, or are you looking around where there's light out the side?
We'll look in the window first, I think.
You glance in the window, and the shelves are all bare, and there's kind of like a layer of dust across everything. There's no weapons, there's no armor, there's no tools inside. It's all empty.
Guess we'll peek on the other side.
You peek around the corner, and you see this young-looking man, kind of peppered with freckles, sweating, kind of has his shirt off, who's kind of working a coal forge. He seems to be making kind of, it almost looks like a hoe, like a kind of basic shape of a metal instrument, and trying to attach it onto a wooden shaft. You look around, and there's no area set up for trade. There's no like display rack of items. And he doesn't even seem to, he kind of like looks up to acknowledge you, but kind of goes back to his work. He doesn't even say much to you.
Boko's gonna reach into his bag and he's gonna pull something out. He pulls out the remainder of a worked half ingot of silver, pure silver. It's about 3/4 of the remaining half ingot, and he's gonna set it on one of the shelves, and he's gonna turn around and walk away.
Just setting it there and leaving?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You place the silver ingot and make your way back. It doesn't seem at first like the smithy has even noticed it or logged it for now, but it'll be there.
Perfect.
Is anyone else?
And I will hopefully join Roland in a search for a house of learning.
Okay.
Or a library of some kind.
Is there anything else that anyone else is doing moving through these streets?
Well, yeah, after kind of taking a peek at the market, because we all kind of wander around, I'd probably join them in their search.
All right. You guys fairly easily find one of the larger buildings here. Appears to be kind of an area of what would have been advanced learning, perhaps a college even. And I'll say that Roland, as you're going through, you notice kind of hanging in the window a small harp symbol that you know to be the symbol of the Harpers, a group of a bardic college that you've heard of. And you kind of pass through inside, and inside it's kind of dimly lit. There's a few people reading at different desks, but it's pretty empty. And you walk in, and there are rows of books, large shelves kind of filled. Is there anything that you're looking for? Or you're just
I'm gonna
wandering?
start scanning the. I'm scanning the shelves for titles I don't recognize, something that is entirely foreign, and I feel like I would not find in any other library I would walk into.
I'd probably do the same, but mostly for like any sort of crafting, metallurgy, like things that might have been lost to time, basically, thanks to this whole event.
Okay. Similar to what Thishalt specified there, looking at like crafting. Is there any theme or context that you're looking for, Roland, or is it just anything and everything?
anything and everything, but kind of he isn't looking for anything. He isn't looking for the practical books, right? Like the crafting, yeah, that's cool, but like things get crafted. But the histories, the religions, the more abstract theoretical knowledge is what he's looking for. Because that is something that will never surface again without uncovering it here at a source.
Yeah, for both of you, go ahead and roll me investigation checks.
They've never been able to replicate the lightning rail outside of here, have they?
No, the lightning rail runs through multiple different...
Genius, both of them.
What was that, Boko?
Nice.
Flash of genius for both of them.
Okay,
All
is
right.
that 3, 4? What is the bonus?
4.
4, okay.
Nice, mine's 15. Right.
33 and 15.
Thishal, you know that there are lightning rails that run through all of the human nations and even all the way up to the Moorholds.
Right, then what was the siren tech?
The sirens developed that tech, but they put it into practice everywhere. And basically, it was a siren noble family that developed it, and they kind of sold it and industrialized it to connect up all of the nations. But that was back when they were all one nation before they split up into multiple.
Yeah, all right. So I wonder what I can find here.
Thishal, looking through the books, a lot of it is similar to what you're familiar with, but advanced for its time. And you remember that Sire was well known for being the most technologically advanced. And multiple of them reference major siren contributions and represent things that are kind of commonplace in Karlakton today that were already in practice in siren cities, like Metro, these large hubs of places of artifice before artifice ever came to Karlakton and the metropolis. And it even you even find some mention about the city of Making, which was where House Orion that developed the lightning rail, where they were kind of based. And they had developed all sorts of constructs. They had been developing all sorts of incredible things. And you actually find one book that is talking, is kind of a controversial debate about warforged. And how warforged were being developed and produced to help in the war effort and help ensure that Sire was where it should be as the proper leading household as Galifar had intended. And it's kind of talking about how this debate back and forth between two different authors. One that is saying that these Warforged are helping ensure that the will of the original empire is met and that this war finally comes to an end. And one is arguing that with the advancement of these constructs, they're gaining life, they're gaining sentience, and they need to be given choice. They need to not just be put straight into this army, but should have the option to do what they want. And the other one kind of argues back, how would they know what they want? They're constructs, they don't have any kind of mind. And it just kind of goes back and forth in this, what we would now kind of do with kind of this futuristic look of AI of how sentient is it? And it's this debate back and forth. And it also talks a little bit about the production of them, how they're made in these giant forges and come out of the city of Making. And how the Orion family is just pumping out legions of these entities to help in this war effort that is just ever growing, and it's taxing on the community as funds need to continue to be raised to gather materials and source power to fuel this war engine, essentially. And you find lots and lots of articles and books and pieces. You find old siren newspapers that were actually on these topics and Warforged is just everywhere in here. It is a hot topic. For Roland, And some of this I'll probably have to come back to give context, because I don't know if I can give you all of it on the spot. But what you find in here in the history, and kind of connected to what I told Thishalt, is that this library, though it has a long, extensive history, a solid half of it is dedicated to the last 5 to 20 years. And it is dedicated to the last war and the politics around it. And it talks about the tense alliances that kind of shift and ebb, and where Sire has come into alliance with Breland at a time, and then that kind of dissolved, where Sire and Karnef have always been at each other's throats and constantly doing raids across the border. You find information about actually a major event that occurred of a Siren cities being kind of burned by these ravaging attacks that were originally thought to be the Karnathi military, but then some people are like, no, it's the Ondarians coming through and trying to pretend to be the Karnathi, and some people are like, no, it's totally like vampires or something. And there's just all of this back and forth, just perspectives of the various attacks and efforts of the war. And you see kind of the rise and fall of Sire, as Sire at the beginning of the last war was a superpower of the mind, and used that to kind of fix the gaps that they had, where at the beginning Ondare, Breland, Karnath all had incredibly strong military presences, and Sire quickly tried to fill that gap. And about halfway through the last war is when the first of the warforged started to come out, and that was kind of the turning point in the war. But as more and more of these came out and they became more and more refined, it actually cost so much that Sire was actually starting to collapse and starting to lose the war just based off of funds, where they had the most intellect, they had the best right to the throne, but by 100 years in, nobody was thinking about those rights, and money was what was winning the war, and they didn't have the natural resources to produce things anymore, and their allies were starting to fade and starting to shift, and at that point, Warforged hit another evolution. And it was about 5 to 10 years before the Day of Mourning where these new evolution of Warforged started to come out that mimicked human interactions, and that really shifted that balance to everyone starting to believe that they were sentient, and the push for giving them choice was becoming more and more popular. And so Sire had just come out with this evolution that gave them their final chance to win the war, and the populace was now turning against them and starting to fight and in support of these warforged, that they should not just be thrown into the war. But if that were to happen, Sire would have no hope of winning, and they would have to abdicate soon. And so that in general is the context and flow from a Siren perspective of the 100 years of the last war. And I'll give you some tidbits and things on top of that due to the nature of the natural 20, but that's the big thing that all of these books, all of these articles are related to, where everyone is thinking about this, everyone is talking about this, all of the politicians and intellectuals are writing about this. It is the thing, the crux that is defining the last 20 years and really coming to define the last 100 for these people right before the Day of Mourning hits.
And when my detect life activates, I detected life in the Warforged that we fought.
You detected something that was registering on this thing that you refer to as detect life, but it was very different than what was present in your companions, human or not. Okay. And that is really the big thing, where the debate is, this is mirroring life and sentience and soul, but do they actually have one?
Same, but different.
Exactly. There's something there that nobody can ignore, but is it enough to justify treating them the same?
Did not see that being a plot point of this game.
I don't like that
AI?
question.
Is AI sentient?
No. It's one
Damn, how
from zeros.
I'm all
How
for this.
close-minded, Roland.
And that is the big debate. Is this technology can mirror life visually, but does that mean, like, it can trick your brain, but does that mean that it's alive? And many of the people in this day and age in these writings are saying no. But there is a movement that is gaining speed that is saying yes.
And now, after this conversation, if Boko dies, I feel like Slayer's going to bring in a warforged character.
I'm already halfway there.
So that's the Schalt and Roland, and perhaps Boko assisting there. Is anyone else, while we're in this library or in this town, looking for anything, trying to connect to anything? Make sure that I give an opportunity if there is any interest. All right. So after a few hours have gone by, you all have kind of spent this time among each other, getting another rest after a day of wandering this nightmare land. Professor Greystorm is kind of looking at you all, and you can see the concern growing. We should really get back onto the road. We have spent hours here, and perhaps this is the best place to take a rest, but then we should continue moving. We still have a deadline back within the city. People could be dying.
Yes, you are right.
Do we still have some travel left in us?
This was nearing the end of the day, and you guys have now spent multiple hours kind of in this library. It is...
Oh, then we may as well stay the night.
Yeah, you guys are well into the night. You guys are starting to get tired at this point, like, and this feels like as safe a place as possible to rest.
I don't like the way you said that.
I'm not here to make you comfortable.
There's no way at all that the Hero's Feast thing is only good for 24 hours and that the disease comes back on the long rest, and then we introduce the Mournlands to this untainted city as soon as Boko sleeps.
That is entirely possible.
No, there's no way.
Even if it was possible,
Not what the
Boko
spell
still
says.
has the protection around him, though, so he wouldn't automatically become contagious.
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
Although it would make for a great story.
Make for a
would.
very dark twist.
Yes. And for Boko hating Roland for the rest of eternity.
Yeah. So essentially, you guys have a place that you could safely rest here, but it would end the Hero's Feast, or you guys could take a point of exhaustion to push through another leg of the journey and try and maximize the benefits of Hero's Feast.
I feel like the point of exhaustion would offset the Hero's Feast.
It's a different values. It depends on what you care about. I'm just making sure you guys know the options. I'm not here to make a decision for you.
I kind of want Boko to sleep here.
The sunlight's good for you, Boko.
I haven't gotten kicked out yet, so this is a good sign.
Yeah.
Shira will go with the party majority. She has no preference either way.
Let's rest here. This is a good place to rest. I feel like we haven't puzzled everything out of it yet. We could probably stay for a week and not puzzle all of it out. But there's more here. And so far it's been good.
If I could translate for David. Yes, let's rest here. What's the worst that could happen?
That is not what I said. I said it's all good. Let's rest here.
Renny, in
There's
this
nothing bad here.
place, as you guys are preparing to rest, Greystorm does kind of come up to you and mentions, the Mornan's effects do not appear to be present in this place. Would you like to attempt some magic here?
Yeah, I think I would. What would you like me to try to do?
Well, perhaps Bungo and I can work you through some of the basic exercises that weavers go through in the application.
All right, let's try it. Bungo, would you be willing to help me?
Of course.
And Greystorm kind of navigates the two of you out to a cleared area. And Bungo, as you kind of come out here, there's a essence of familiarity to what he's doing and what he's walking through, and you have this moment where
there he goes again.
Oh, I minimized Discord again. It didn't like it. So yeah, Bungo, you have this moment of familiarity that comes back, and you
Discord doesn't like bottoming.
You can either fall into a role here as a student with Renny, kind of doing the same things, or you can kind of fall into a co-instructor role here. Which one is Bungo drawn towards?
He will help with the basics, like if there are certain exercises to like connect with the threads. Bungo could help with that, but any explanations are going to be up to Greystorm.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
And Greystorm does kind of lean on you to go through some of the basics of meditation, kind of helps talk through some of these explanations on the weave, on how there are various threads that magic resides in and that connect each and every creature on the earth that you can kind of pull and manipulate if you know what you're doing. And Greystorm kind of starts, Renny, by looking at you. When you connect with magic, what is it that you feel? Or rather, when you are responding in fear or looking to provide someone with a boon, how do you interact with that? See if you can put yourself in that space to manifest magic.
I don't know what I do. I guess I envision what something would be instead of what it is. So like if somebody was going to like stab one of my friends, I just imagine that they lost their knife. Does that make sense? Does that make magic work?
Perhaps. There is much to do with visualization. Wait here. And he kind of pulls out a small dagger and holds it, or hands it over to Bungo.
Out that something's about to poke him, so he instead starts attacking this imaginary thing with the knife instead of Greystorm. So he's now I'm imagining him turning and like stabbing at the air wildly and like flings the knife out to try and knock out whatever this imaginary creature is.
And do you have a spell that you're flavoring to do this, or are you just trying to connect with the magic itself?
I have one. I'm trying to pull up my character sheet. It's not liking me for some reason.
It does that.
Why don't you like me for some reason? So
Usually I've seen it hate clerics, so this is interesting.
Hey.
a DC 16 at disadvantage with my gambler stuff.
All right, Bungo, give me a DC 16. Is it intelligence? Yeah, intelligence. Or Yeah, intelligence saving throw at
DC 16
disadvantage.
Intelligence at disadvantage.
Okay. So Bungo, you feel as Renny is kind of manipulating this and trying to get into this space, you feel something affect your mind. But you feel it coming on with a pretty dangerous intention, and you immediately try and push it away. And I think is there any effect on a success? Trying to scan through this here.
It just ends the effect, I think.
Yeah, so Bungo, you feel something trying to prey upon your psyche, and just out of reaction, you push it away. But Greystorm kind of sees this and kind of gives a nod to Renny. Yes, it appears like you have done something. Though my pupil here, he seems to have resisted the effect. This is
That's
good.
Okay, I didn't want to imagine him getting hurt. I was trying to imagine him being distracted.
No, this is good. This shows that is how you interact with magic and how you begin to manipulate what is around you. Now, within our teachings as a weaver, there are natural affinities, and these are grouped in classes where each thread forms some closer bonds. There are 4 primordial elements: fire, earth, water, and air, and each of these has an associated affinity. But there are also the fundamental forces around us. Demiurgy, which is the creation of material and essence of life. Dynamancy, which is the affinity that I carry, which is all about manipulating the electromagnetic currents available in the world. What some call necromancy, we refer to as the weak force, the compatriot to demiurgy, and helps in manipulating life essence, growing it or revivifying it. The final of the fundamental forces is graviturgy, a manipulation of the attraction, the physical attraction between all entities, and being able to amplify or reduce that. And then the final pillar is that of the 4 universal powers: time, entropy, entropy, and natural magic. With what you do, it feels like you are manipulating magics in a natural way. But you also have aspects of illusion, which is a aspect of fire or light, being able to manipulate the lights around you to create a visual disturbance that can fool people's eyes. It is likely that one of these may be your natural affinity that you have, but the more that you begin to reach out to the weave and understand these different threads that you can pull upon, the more you will be able to see which ones you are naturally drawn to. So, in this moment, if you will, if you can, focus on the image of fire in your hand, on manipulating it and feeling the heat. Press in that heat and that energy from your hand and your palm. Feel it surge from the force, the life energy of your heart up your arm and into your palm to create that flame. And then see if you can push that flame into the dirt here. And he kind of marks a space 10 to 15 feet from you. And Renny, in this moment, I'd like you to go ahead and make me a Arcana check. Renny, you press with your mind and try to follow through the different instructions that he had made mention of to you. And unfortunately, for all that you are doing, for all that you're trying, you can't feel that heat. You can't even feel that image of the fire manifest. And there's this moment of kind of disappointment that comes to you.
I don't think I'm good at the fire. I have fur. I don't like fire.
It is alright. This is just one exercise. It is likely that your affinity is not for pyromancy then. And Bungo, as he's kind of walking through these different exercises, you remember going through this once upon a time as well. You remember the various instructions that the professors would give you to test out how easily you could find and grab onto a thread. And eventually you remember how you found the thread of geomancy, that connection to earth and stone. Are there any hints or advice to how you saw that thread that you can offer up to Renny in this moment as you're assisting in this instruction?
EA powers activate.
So, Remy, it is, for me, I also couldn't do pyromancy. Fire is not something I can do, but to me, the ground almost speaks, if that makes sense. I can hear it. It's like it's humming a little bit, and I just follow that. I think about like a spider's silk connecting me with that humming noise.
A humming.
But on like a magical, it's not like an actual sound you can hear. It's kind of hard to explain. You just kind of get a feeling for it.
Like you feel the humming.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get it. I understand what you mean. I've felt that before.
See if you can resonate with that connection. You made mention that you are from Telanis. That is the realm of natural sorcery and magic, the home of Arcana. When you utilize magic to enchant or amplify psionics, or to connect with other creatures or summon them from other places, yes, these are ways that you are enacting with raw sorcery. See if you can follow that connection and feel that interaction with another person. Focus on myself. Focus on my mind. And see if you can give me the instructions to step forward across the square. Put that will of your own into my mind. And Renny, go ahead and roll me another Arcana check, this time at advantage.
I will start kind of subconsciously humming along in like a melody that I would be playing on my instrument, and just trying to like just vibe with the world and see if I can get any sort of resonance to occur. That I'm not sure I quite understood what he meant with this the world humming, but it's like, man, I can hum. I know what I'm doing with that. Like, I can carry a tune, and I'll see what I can do.
Renny, that hum that you give out vibrating up the back of your throat, across your head and into your mind, this tune, this jaunty shanty almost that you would typically play, and you find your eyes closing as you're just vibing with this melody, and you feel that hum. It's not a audible hum, but it is a tangible hum nevertheless, and Suddenly it's almost like you're maneuvering music staffs and watching the notes play across the various lines, and you see those lines. You can play them like strings of a harp. You can toy them like keys of a piano. You can press them like the sides of your concertina, and you push. You feel this movement. Step, step, step. That will, and you press it into that line, that note, that melody as it passes. And you feel it connect. You feel another presence that you're pressing into. And it is a rolling storm. But it is not an untapped tropical hurricane. It is a soft, rumbling thunder of a distant thunderstorm. That powerful presence, but held back in control. And you see flashes of lightning in your mind's eye, this rolling sound that da-doom, da-doom, da-doom. That storm that you can feel. And you follow that sound, that rolling thunder, as it presses, and you press your own melody into that bassy note and carry it across the winds of the storm. And suddenly your eyes are open and you see Greystorm walking across the square, stepping where you felt like you wanted him to step. And you feel this thread of connection from your humming traveling across whatever thread, whatever piece connects you to everything else. And you feel connections to this stone grindy surface, this rumbling rock power of this small halfling beside you. You feel the brightness of the world around you. You feel that distant, deadly mist. And you feel a quiet peace here where your melody can sing.
Bungo, I hear you. You resonate, you vibrate, you make noise. I can hear your song.
You hear me?
I hear your song. Yes. I just needed to learn to listen.
Bungo is deeply disturbed because he can hear the ground. Like he has this resonance with the thing he can control. So if Remy can hear me, deeply concerning.
I think I can just kind of hear anything if I'm listening for it. I don't know. Do something magical. I want to hear how your sound changes.
Bungo is going to use mold earth to just raise a little, like a golem animation from the ground, only like 2-3 inches tall, that walks around and hops and just runs around a little bit.
Renny, you are almost deafened by the sounds of two mountains colliding together. And then this peace as a valley is formed and a soft rock slide that smooths out as this boulder rolls around the field.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. Is that how your magic sounds to you? And I guess I try and replicate the noise I heard, but on my instrument. I want to see if I can play his song of what he did.
Give me a performance check.
I might have the ability to do that at advantage once per day, and I think I want to with my feat tree.
Yeah. there is this tangible high, magical high that Renny is on. And Bungo, you are surprised in this moment as the concertina, as it is playing, there are sounds of mountains colliding, but it's not audible. It's in your mind. You're feeling them, you're hearing them, you're there. It is like an avalanche coming full force on you and then separating into a soft valley. That valley, that smooth sliding of rock is what you're familiar with. This massive mountain sound, you don't know where it came from, but it is not what you're familiar with.
Renny, that was incredible. I don't know what you just did, but I have never done that before.
I just played your song. That's what you're doing. That's what the weave and that's what the world hears when you do your thing. I just imitated. This is a mimicry of what you put out. That's all you, my friend.
Bungo, you have this moment.
Well, you'll have to...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You have this moment where you're kind of conflicted and you don't know if Renny is just experimenting with something that he's newly found and doesn't really know how to control it, or if there's this part of you that maybe you don't even realize is being present when you do your magic.
Yeah, now Bungo's very curious if he's like not living up to what he could be doing, you know?
And the three of you continue to kind of experiment more with some basic exercises and some control. And in this moment, Renny, from now on, you gain +1 to all Arcana checks.
Cool.
And you, at least Professor Greystorm has stated that you might have a natural affinity for some kind of sorcery. As everyone else is here preparing their evening or final rather adjustments to the day, is there anything else that anyone would like to do in the town before taking their rest and setting out?
Austin, I just have a general question, kind of about how the mist operates. So this town, is it like it's isolated from the mist, right? Not physically, but some like barrier is there, right?
There is a visual barrier where the sun kind of breaks the mist. But that's the only barrier that you can see, and it's certainly not normal. There should be no sun in the Moorland at all to what you know of. And so the fact that there's sun at all and the fact that it's like holding at bay these effects, it's very, very aberrant, and you have no idea what's causing it, but to your knowledge, nobody has ever reported something like this before.
Interesting. While everyone is in the town, sorry to go back a little bit, but could Bungo try and think about, or I guess while we're settling down after this magic lesson, could Bungo try and just reason out why this might be the case, how this has happened, that these people have survived here for so long and the mist hasn't ever affected them?
Sure. Are you trying to just reason through this, or are you going up and interacting with anyone to ask?
Oh no. Bungo is not going to interact with people. More just like from what he knows about the mist, things he's read, from what he understands about the magic of the Moorland.
Yeah, roll me a history or arcana check, your choice. So thinking about the Moorland, you know that on the day of mourning, some 60 years ago, something happened. And there have been plenty of theories about what caused it, but no one has ever really known for sure what happened. But essentially, this mist traveled across this entire country and stopped roughly at the borders of that country. And everyone inside died almost instantaneously. And that mist had been thick and ever present, to the degree and intensity of that first kind of mile that you guys crossed whenever you first came over here. But something happened a few decades ago, and it started to relax, and that thickness slowly pulled back into just having a barrier, kind of roughly a few hundred feet to a mile in varying depth along the edge of what was used to be Sire and what is now the Moorland. And at that point, people started trying to go into it and investigating, and found that magic had just wildly affected places in here. And there were just random things, and you guys have experienced it too, where landscapes have been vastly changed. There are giant train-sized hallucination illusions that have some aspect of reality. And so maybe this is just another magical aberration that happened during the Moorland that nobody had investigated yet. Because you guys are relatively deep into the Moorland at this point and not on a typical path. And it's still relatively rare for people to even venture into the Moorland at all, and usually they're trying to find treasure or salvage things that they can sell. They're not necessarily looking to explore and document as much. There's some people who do, but it's not common yet because it is still an incredibly dangerous place, and so academics are not the most common to venture into that.
So Bungo has two theories on this. Either this is just complete coincidence. It's just random happenstance that this town was not affected by the myths for whatever reason. Or, again, kind of from his the magic lesson that just went on, he was thinking about how certain spells are cast, and it feels like someone or something cast this spell with intention to not affect this, especially since it's only in the borders of Sire. Did anyone get the name of this town?
No, nobody has talked to anyone yet.
Could Bungo try and talk to somebody and ask what the name of the town is?
Sure. You kind of... Everybody is kind of gathered around where the library is, and you start to move in the direction where others are at. And at this point, the light is still heavy, but most people have seemed to move towards their homes, and the streets are relatively empty. But you're kind of walking back to that main area, and you see a woman who's kind of like looking around, and as she spots you, she actually starts sprinting in your direction. Is there any reaction that Bungo has? Yep.
Are you okay, ma'am?
She rushes up to you and places her hands kind of on your shoulder, Bungo, and is just like, You're from the outside. Can you get me out? Can you take me away from this place?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't know if I can. It's very dangerous.
You don't have any sort of like teleportation scroll, or you can't, you don't have any magic that you can give to me? I've got to get out of here. I've just been here too long.
Why do you need to get out of here?
What do you mean? And she just like looks around, just like shocked that she needs to provide an explanation. I don't even know what year it is.
Can you tell me where we are? What is the name of this town?
This place is Onrex. But there's not much left of it.
Austin, how do you spell that?
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yep.
I got it right.
Do any of the people that came with you, do they have a way out?
I can ask, but I don't think so.
Please, can you take me to them? I've got to know. I've got to know if there's any way out.
Ma'am, is this common here? Does everyone want to leave? Do y'all feel trapped here?
We are all trapped here. I'm sure plenty of people want to leave. Most people have accepted it, but I just can't. I've been hoping and praying for the next adventurers to come through, and here you are, and I just need to hope that you have a way that can get me out of here. Please, can you take me? I'll try anything.
How far away am I from the party?
You're not very far. You wandered a couple houses down into this kind of street. The library is pretty close to the main street, and she's kind of just hanging on to you. And she's a human woman, but she's like fully leaning down into your small frame.
Okay, I'm gonna cast message to Greystorm and tell him, Professor, there's a woman here I think we want to talk to. She says the townsfolk feel trapped here and they want to leave. I don't know what to tell her.
I can come out to talk with her. I'm on my way.
Thank you.
And shortly thereafter, Greystorm joins you and kind of sees this woman, and she immediately kind of stands up and is, "Oh, thank you, you've got to help me. Please, please. I just need some way out." And he kind of is shocked a little bit, and Greystorm is a personal space man, and as soon as she starts to lean into him and kind of hang on to him, he is just fully on the back foot, and it is going to be all right, miss. What is going on? Please, you have to help me. I've just got to try and get out of here. Do you have a scroll? Do you have a spell, some way to teleport me or to move me to get me away from this place? I'm just trapped. I've been here so long. Please, calm down. I do not have any scrolls with me that have that kind of ability. And Greystorm kind of thinks for a moment. I am able to teleport short distances, but only a few hundred feet or so. Well, you don't have any way to teleport me to another city or another continent? I need to get away. No, I do not. What is going on? This place, it's a trap. I can't get out. And I can't just stay here forever like everyone else. And she kind of looks to you, Bungo, and you can see this sadness, this depression on her face. She looks back at Greystorm. You said a few hundred feet, right? Maybe that'll be enough. Can we go to the edge? Can you try and teleport me away? And Greystorm kind of looks for a moment at this woman who is clearly just almost manic in her attempts here. And he kind of looks at you, and you've never seen your professor kind of look for help like this, but he's just like completely uncertain. And he kind of almost shrugs, just, I suppose we could try. Bungo, have you done anything, or has this woman just talked to you?
I just came into town to see if I could figure out the name of the town. That is it.
Oh, all right, ma'am. Here. Bungo, you stay at the library with the others. There is a radius of damage that emanates when I do this, but it should protect me and her. And he kind of walks, it's maybe about 500, 600 feet to the edge of where the sunlight hits, and you can just see them, Bungo, from where you kind of stand at the library, unless you wanted to get closer.
Yeah, I'll stay with them, just like out of range of the damage effect.
It's only about 30 feet, so you kind of stand about 60, 70 feet away from them as they kind of stand towards the edge of this light, and he kind of looks at her. Are you sure you want to try this? Yes, whatever you can do, please, I have to get out. All right, well, this will attempt to move you. If you feel something resonating within your body, you must just relax. And he kind of holds her by the shoulder, and you see as there is a sudden shunting, like a thunder boom that emanates out this small wave as the two of them are translocated. And you see them appear maybe 100, 200 feet away. And you see just this happiness across this woman's face. And then the face begins to decay. The skin turns to ash. The bones blacken, the eyes sink. As the morning, the mist takes over her body, and she is desiccated within Greystorm's arms. And that is where we're going to end today's session. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
That was fucking